Hello everybody and welcome to this new vlog episode for Authentic Sound. Some of you have asked me to share some ideas and information about how I produce these videos, and in order to be able to do that I filmed during a so-called production day for Authentic Sound. Those small films are ready to share with you, so without further ado, come on over to the computer and let's have a look on unique footage behind the scenes of Authentic Sound. So, while we are listening to the latest finished recording, the new sonata written in 2010 by our Greek friend Kostas, it is obvious that in order to be able to present to you every 10 days a new recording, I have to plan carefully, choose the music on time and make sure to be able to play the selected music, which is not always easy, not an easy goal to meet every 10 days, but this time frame and this YouTube channel in general is beneficial to me. It keeps me focused, keeps my fingers running and my eyes reading. I try to work a bit up front, having at least one recording beyond the next time date, but daily occupations often hinder that ideal time frame, of course. But also that has turned out to become a great learning platform to me. I need to perform sometimes on a moment on which I feel as being not ideal, be it that I have much on my mind, I'm not feeling too well, I'm a bit tired, or one of my two girls have of course exactly that night a hard time to find their sleep and so on. But the recording goes on anyway, and by pushing my limits in this way I feel as if I built up confidence in all kinds of circumstances. So, leaving this polished result with a nice black background to a moment earlier that day, you see the instrument at exactly the same spot with me practicing Kostas' sonata. Of course, the piece is ready for recording, otherwise I wouldn't record it, but depending on the time that I have available, I play the pieces that I'm going to record that evening on regular times. I used to keep the so-called freshness of the piece for the big moment itself, but I for myself learned that building up concentration and focus within the piece is, to me at least, essential to reach a kind of free, relaxed approach during the recording. It's difficult to explain, and maybe we go deeper into this later in a later vlog or so. Besides playing, as you see here, the clavichord needs to be at its best regarding the tuning. When the instrument can stay for a longer time period at home at the same place, tuning remains stable. Stable enough for playing, but for the sensitive yet not so smart ears of microphones, I do want to make sure the tuning of the instrument is at its best. That sometimes implies a complete new temperament and tuning, but if the temperament is okay for the piece I'm going to record, I just go over the octaves and unisons. When I have decided where to place the instrument, and that is something that varies these days since we are in the middle of rebuilding our living room, which is also my music room, an important thing is of course the setting up of the equipment. And there are two families of equipments, obviously, camera gear and audio gear. First, about the audio gear that you see me putting up here. Well, when I started this YouTube channel more than a year ago, I wanted to use in the first place what I had available. And for audio, this came down to two microphones, AKG C3000, very neutral sounding studio gear, but not too expensive. It's about €300 each, if I remember well, which in hi-fi terms is really not very much. I bought them years ago to document my organ study, so I had also rather good audio cables. And as a recording device in the beginning, I used a field recorder of Tascam. I don't remember exactly which one. It costed about €450 I think, and actually was a gift from my father, who used to use this device to record his guitar exercises. So that was it. This combination gave a rather good result. taking into consideration that YouTube compresses your audio signal rather heavily. But seeing the channel grow slowly, I took my approach more seriously and thinking also about setting up an own recording label, of which much more later when things are really clear to me. I come back to that to you certainly later on. I decided to upgrade in audio gear. So I bought a very nice tube preamplifier, a Presonus ADL600, dual mono, which basically means that you have two completely separate mono amplifiers in one device. I was very lucky to buy this in the so-called B stock at Thomann for about half its price. So it was not very cheap, but it was actually a bargain, and it will last a lifetime. And then I added some very good devices by Benchmark, one to convert the signal analog to digital and the other one to doing exactly the opposite. Benchmark was in the middle of upgrading both devices, so also here I was lucky to buy both of them at a very reduced price. And finally, a good friend of mine lent me and hopefully will sell me later two incredible beautiful microphones. Neumann TML170R, of which the sound in combination with this tube amplifier is really something you should hear live. So positioning of these microphones is very important, and we'll see later on how we adjust them. And to mention this between brackets, the audio signal is of course heavily converted and compressed by YouTube, but still, if you compare recent videos recording on YouTube with older ones, you hear clearly the difference of the equipment. So the quality stays there even if the signal is compressed. So about the camera gear, the same thing. When I started, I had a rather nice camera, Fuji X Pro 1. I use it mainly for still photography, as I like to do in my free time. But it is also suitable for video. It's not the most equipped video camera out there, but image quality is really outstanding, as is, and as important, its low light performance. I recently, and actually for the first time, used in this video, the video I made of Costa's Sonata, I bought a new camera, a Panasonic Lumix LX100, which is not too expensive, but which shares a lot of the features of its greater brother, the Panasonic GH4. For those of you who are familiar with these types of cameras, it performs beautifully with an additional comfort of remote control through Wi-Fi, which is very interesting also to my oldest daughter to watch me adjusting the camera. You see a little clip from that. So instead of asking my wife Anya to pose, I can adjust the camera through my smartphone. The Fuji needs to be manually set up, with Anya behind the clavichord as a stand-in, and resulting always obviously in a so much nicer picture than with me. But she refuses to play, so you have to do it with me. For putting up all the gear, I count about 1 to 1.5 hours, and I try to do it during the day, making sure everything is set up and working by the time I start the recording. Lighting is something else, on the contrary, is something I only can do when the conditions are there. Most of the recordings are done at late evening hour, certainly after 9 o'clock. Several reasons for that. Street noise is much less, no airplanes mostly. The children are in bed and hopefully asleep, and not at the least, the light isn't changing anymore outside. Certainly at evenings where the sun is setting, the recording itself, let's say a sonata, can take up about 1 to 1.5 hours, which causes the light conditions to change so drastically that the camera and light settings at the beginning of the recording don't match those at the end. So in order to prevent this, most recordings are made in complete darkness. Sometimes with candlelight, sometimes with 4 LED lights, as in this recording. Candles are nice, produce a warm light, are rather easy to film with good equipment and some knowledge of aperture and ISO, but the downside is a rather dark video. Probably nice for you, to my audience, so to say, but they might be a bit less attractive to new ones through because of the rather dark thumbnails, I don't know. Also for me, reading the score with candlelight is not always an easy thing to do. The 4 small LED lights, which are very cheap, I bought them actually at the IKEA, are not easy to set up. They create a very focused light that can give a rather hard feel. It needs careful placement and also important a good white balance on the camera to turn the cold light into a more warm, smooth atmosphere. They produce almost no heat, which makes them perfect as well for daily use, since there is no risk at all for the tuning of the clavichord. They are placed just outside the camera view. Sometimes they're in, as I like for Bach's Wohltemperierter Klavier, to focus in a kind of technical look to the instrument only. A few big LED studio lights would work perfect as well, but they would create, contrary to the very small focused LED lights, a general ambient light. And that would lighten the complete instrument, but the complete environment as well, which is not at all evident in a house where next to a daddy who has scores and stuff everywhere, also 2 little girls of 3 and 9 years old leave enough traces of their presence during the day. So the choice for a rather dark environment and focus on the instrument and its player is a deliberate one, made out of practical considerations more than vision. Once the cameras are set, there is a final balance to be made for the microphone setup. The general setup is mostly in my mind, and YouTube is a wonderful platform to experiment with all kinds of stereo positioning. But if you realize that changing the position only 1 centimeter of one of the microphones can and actually will change the sound, and moreover the balance between bass and treble, this is an important moment as well. I listen first to the headphones, which is possible in case of a clavichord recording, in the sense that it is possible to turn the volume of the amplifying sound up so to not hear the real sound production of the instrument itself, which is rather essential in making a good balance. It is not ideal either, as you would expect to be in a studio, but it works fine. And later Anya will make the final adjustments regarding level of the preamplifier, and once the signal is converted into digital, also of the converted signal. So at the end of the day, in almost complete darkness, the recording can take place. I usually play every piece 3, maximum 4 times, which is a wonderful experience each time, building up the concentration level and focus. And until now, for every recording, I can say that my view and approach to the music have always benefited from that. After everything is recorded, I copy the file on my computer so that they can be backed as well. For that I use GaragePlan, an online backup platform which is very affordable and offers unlimited storage. I'll put a link in the description box for those of you who might be interested. Next day, or one of the next days, there is work to be done at the computer. First, I make a selection of the tracks. That can take up quite some time, as was in this particular recording the case, because it was new music. But most often I know during or directly after the recording what takes probably are the best. The chosen tracks are cleaned up in Samplitude, the platform I work with for audio. Sometimes it was part of a decision from the beginning of this channel. I could either leave every take as it is, as a live performance, or allow myself to do some editing. And the fact that I play live for the camera and not playback restricts the possibilities of post-editing much, since the audio and the camera signals must be synchronized all the time. But from the beginning I quickly took the decision that no one would benefit from a small or bigger mistake I make, or from the sound of turning the pages and so on. We'll do a separate video on this if you would like. And next, the audio file is connected to the video signal, for which I currently use Sony Vegas Pro. Adding a second camera to the equipment evidently means a more complicated workflow for the video editing, but I feel as this creates some additional interest to the videos. So, all by all, once the video has been rendered in a format suitable for upload to YouTube, Combined with the recording, there is about 1 complete day of work in it, from the moment a piece is ready for recording. A question you can ask, is it worth it? For me, the answer definitely yes. As I mentioned at the beginning, the discipline that this challenge, and it is a constant challenge I can tell you, but the discipline that it requires makes me, at least I feel it like that, makes me a better musician in terms of craftsmanship. And the experience just by doing this is something I can take with me wherever I go or wherever I have to play, in what circumstances that might be. And last but not least, there is you, a wonderful audience, invisible for me behind the microphones and lens, but reacting often in a so positive yet critical and nuanced way that it makes me feel grateful to all of you and to whatever enables me to let me do this. I hope you enjoyed this little tour behind the scenes. I thank you for watching and also for your subscription to the channel. I'm happy to read your reactions and stay tuned for more vlogs to come. Bye.